Hello, welcome to the Ralphthemoviemaker podcast. I'm Ralphthemoviemaker, blah, blah, blah. And we're here to talk about two classics, or one classic and one sequel to a classic, called Saturday Night Fever is the classic, and the sequel is Staying Alive. I'm joined by my guest Cam. How you doing, bud?
Hey Ralph, hello
this
everyone.
This is like kind of your pick, which is good. I'm like, yeah, this is a good idea because I just recommend superhero movies. This is what I want to talk about, old classics. So let's start with Saturday Night Fever, starring John Travolta, directed by, I don't know, you know that.
John Badham.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen another.
Last night I actually watched War Games, which he also directed. I'd never seen it before. It's a good movie, and also it came out the same year as the sequel to Saturday Night Fever, Staying Alive.
Yeah, but Saturday Night Fever is a banger, is what I refer to it. It hasn't aged a day, or it's aged, but it's aged really well. It's a good time capsule of that period. John Travolta's awesome, and yeah, it's a fucking banger. It's like the songs are bangers, the dancing is a banger. Like dancing's great. Like everything about the movie's great. The acting's awesome. Like everyone in the movie is stellar. You know, it's like a great like time capsule of that period. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, a time capsule when disco was at its peak.
Yeah,
and I agree.
The dancing's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like when Travolta's character Tony is his name. He kind of goes like up and down. He's like doing like little like
especially
splits.
Compared to the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we could cover the first one.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, it's a movie about dancers where you're supposed to think the dancing's impressive, and it actually is. You're like, whoa, that's cool, And the Spanish people who go at the end, they're like the people who come in second place. They were awesome too. Like all the dancing's like amazing. I'm like, is that just the time? Or is this like a movie? I'm sure it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some.
It's that
fiction
time,
to it.
right?
Yeah,
people like just love just going to disco. Going to the disco. They just love that, and yeah, it's cool.
Obviously, we weren't around then, but so it's like effective in that way. It kind of like presents like a certain portrait of a subculture of dancing and partying and all that.
Yeah. It almost works as like a period piece,
even
though it's not. It's like made at that time, but it works as a perfect time capsule for that. That's what I mean when I say like it hasn't aged, like it has disco music, but it hasn't aged in terms of like the actual storytelling. Like it's an engaging movie. It's got good drama. The music is all written for the movie. It's all like original music for the movie. Basically.
I believe so. Yeah, I think like
from the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
And the songs are bangers. Like these songs are like stuff I heard before even seeing the movie. Like that's how good. I mean, Staying Alive, obviously.
Yeah, How Deep Is Your Love? Yeah.
Yeah, all those songs. You're like, wow, this is the 2001.
Odyssey.
Yeah. It's like amazing music, like the whole thing through and through. You're like, there's just something about movies at that time, like The Graduate. And like, even though
that was 10 years earlier.
But just but it's just like 60s and 70s movies, and like I don't know, I think of like Harold and Maude with the Cat Stevens music, like great music written for movies at that time, like great just soundtracks that were like you would actually hear them on the radio. That's how good they were, and you don't really get that now with movies. Now soundtracks are like, subsidiary or like they're good. I guess it's just different now, but you don't hear them on the radio.
Less frequent, yeah.
Yeah, there's not soundtracks like, The Graduate soundtrack or like this, where you're like, wow, this soundtrack is like most of the movie. It's like almost like Space Jam. But it is. It's like the music makes the movie.
They go hand in hand. Yeah, and like both the movie and the soundtrack are in the Library of Congress, like deservedly so. Historical and cultural significance, and it's a lot of fun. And just to give a little context, so like this came out in 1977. This is really what made Travolta a star. He'd done the show like Welcome Back, Kotter. It was like I never watched it. It's like a sitcom, and he had a memorable supporting role in Carrie the year before, but this was really like what made him a movie star. And it's nice, because in the years since we've seen like Battlefield Earth and Gotti, like all these horrible movies. It's nice to get a reminder of what like made him a star in the first place, how and why.
There's the scene where he goes with his girlfriend there, Stephanie, to like they go to like when she's upset, they go off to the side of the road and sit on that bench by the bridge, and they look at the bridge. I just kept thinking of this. I started to see the opening of Gotti when he's in front of the bridge. Greatest fucking city in the world. But yeah, it was good. Like that scene was good. The reason I keep looking down is because I'm looking at the cast for the movie, like just some of the other actors in it. Because obviously Travolta made his career. Karen Lynn Gorney is her name, who's like the girlfriend. I thought she was good, and I really liked the girl who played. I think her name was Doreen in the movie. Like his other girlfriend there,
Annette.
Who held up. Annette. Oh, that's Annette. Okay, so Donna Pascal. Yeah.
Yeah. Who
I really liked her in it.
Yeah, she was really
she
good.
Was good. Yeah, I thought she was really like a lot of like, especially toward the end, like a lot of like emotional crying and like yelling, and she did that like really well. But I like that character. She's like, like, what, you fixed to something? What, are you kidding me? I love you. What, are you kidding me? It's very funny.
They're back and forth. Yeah, a lot of people might know. At least I did. I knew Donna Pascal because she played the mother on Even Stevens, like the sitcom. But yeah, she's very good in the movie.
Yeah, she's great in it. That's just what I mean. Like everyone was good in it. It's got a good edge to it. I told you like after I watched it, I think the first time, but even this time, I'm like, it's got a lot of like harsh language in it. Like a lot of
cursing, like, racial
slurs, like
misogynistic language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing, calling people bitches, and they call the Spanish people like the Spanish slur, and it's I just wasn't expecting that. I think a lot of people watching this movie at first are expecting something like Grease, like you said,
right? Which was like the follow up. Yeah.
It's definitely got an edge to it. Grease is more like family friendly, I guess, than this.
A little bit more,
but it gives this movie also personality. It's part of the tone of this film, the realism, and this is kind of like how those people would be.
Yeah, his
they
friends
are kind of losers. It's like he says, you're kind of a loser.
Well, also like just for an overview, like the plot is like Tony Manero is this like 19-year-old guy living in Brooklyn, and it's one of the best like opening credits sequences when he's just I think most people would recognize it even if they haven't seen the movie. Him walking through the streets.
It's one of those things that's been
like staying alive.
Like
Madagascar.
Exactly. It's such a staple.
Yeah, I love in that sequence as an opening shot. It's a POV, like he's like trying to like harass this woman. He keeps like standing in her path, and she just goes by him. It's a really funny like shot. Yeah, it establishes his character very well. And Tony, he works in a paint store. He lives at home. His family shits on him a lot. It's not a very healthy like dynamic. And his friends are dickheads. But like when he goes to dance like at the club called 2001 Odyssey like every weekend, that's where he's a star. He's a great dancer, and he gets to show off.
That's where he can be himself when he's on the dance floor. It's like his expression. And then the movie's about his family life, his mom and his brother is struggling, his friends struggling. His friends are dickheads. One of his friends got a girl pregnant, and the whole movie he's like trying to talk about that, but everyone keeps ignoring him and like dealing with their own shit.
Beating people up.
It's sad. They like destroy property. They're assholes. They're asshole characters. But it's like you said, Travolta, you root for him because he has that sympathetic.
He has that charisma,
and that too. Like the performance is so good. Like he has that charisma. Yeah, he's like very like, like
cocky.
Want to be him. Yeah, but he's just like cool. He's just like a cool guy. Like when he's walking down the street on the opening, that's like the whole point of it. It's like look how cool he is. But then they deconstructed it. Yeah, but they deconstruct a little bit. Like, it's not, like, so shallow of a movie. It's like, this guy's flawed. Like, he yells at his mom. It makes his mom cry, and his friends, his girlfriend. He's like, first my mom, now you. There's funny dialogue in it. There's a lot of memorable, funny dialogue that you'd expect from an iconic movie. Well, watch the hair, and that kind of shit.
Yeah, there's a scene, his father smacks him on the head and he's sensitive about his hair, because it's a long setup. Like he's, I think it's playing Night Fever and he's like, putting the hairspray in and combing his hair.
We just wash the hair. No, I work on my hair a long time and you hit it. He hits my hair.
One thing we noticed, it's funny, like, I don't know how many, like, it was obviously a huge hit, like, and this was like the same year as like Star Wars and Close Encounters, but it held its own at the time in terms of like
Yeah.
box office and cultural impact. And we noticed on Letterboxd that like its rating seems a little low.
Oh yeah, because I was just looking at it. That's how I was looking at the cast. It's a 3.2.
Out of 5. Yeah, that's pretty low.
That's fucking bizarre.
Yeah, it has a lower.
Because there's people on there who are idiots. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be like recency bias too. Because I noticed it has a lower score than How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That movie's ass. I'm sorry, people. I'm not. Ron Howard has made good movies. That is not one of them.
The music and Travolta, just like even the opening scene, like that's great. Him walking down the street. That's one of the most iconic scenes in film, probably. And what, a 3.2? Get the hell out of here. That's what I mean with these rating sites. It's like there's no logic to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
and we can rate this. I would give it like an 8 out of 10. It's definitely
That's what
worth
I'd give
watching.
it.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 4-star. Yeah, I really loved it. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of fun. I loved watching it again. It's a fun movie.
It is. Yeah, despite its darker elements, it's very watchable.
Yeah. The darker elements made it interesting though. Like gave it a little bit of, add a little bit of salt to the meal.
Right. It's not just like some goofy, like just like a bunch of dance numbers, which is kind of like what Staying Alive
Yeah.
is.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because that's what I was gonna say with the next one. Like that film, Staying Alive, is like it has no edge at all.
No, they completely sanded the edges off for the whole
You
franchise.
mentioned the first one. Obviously a big part of the first one was his friend like commits suicide there in that scene. Oh, he jumps off the bridge. In this movie, they don't even mention like Staying Alive. They don't mention the friend or any of that shit, as far as I
No.
remember.
It's not like Top Gun Maverick. He's not mentoring his dead friend's son or anything.
Yeah. Well, like some elements come back, like the mom is in it, but it's.
But she's
so,
the only
like,
other returning character
exactly. Basically, yeah, she
Yeah.
is the only returning character.
besides Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just so like toned down, like everything. Even like the fights with her, like they don't fight at all. In the first one they did, in this one they don't.
Yeah,
This one they get along with super well. That's my son up there. When I like, how did he learn to do that? Whatever the fuck she says at the end.
Yeah.
And that was super corny.
It's so like
The whole movie.
gooey, like just reconcile. I don't think like it
It's
always works
corny.
like that with dysfunctional families. Like I'm sorry, mom. Like it's okay, and like that's
Yeah.
it.
I said it with the first one. I say it with a lot of movies. Relatability is a huge factor that I like. I like being able to relate to the characters in the film. You relate to the John Travolta character in the first one because he's just like a normal guy who works at a paint store. You know, he's not like doing anything like his like vice or whatever is going to dance. That's like his going out Saturday night. That's his Saturday night fever.
Yeah.
This one, they made him a Broadway star. He's now a Broadway star. He's dancing and he has everything, everything he could possibly want. And it's just like makes him kind of lame, makes the story kind of lame, makes it unrealistic, and it makes it very corny. Yeah, this movie is like super super corny.
I agree. The movie is very cheesy, and it's just a bunch of like we said, there's no edge anymore. It's all a bunch of like rom-com bullshit.
Thumbs up.
In the movie, in Staying Alive, yes, thumbs up. In Staying Alive, his girlfriend in that movie, like she's really pretty. She's also in Dirty Dancing, which is a way better dance. There were a lot of dancing movies at this time.
The British girlfriend there.
No, the blonde woman.
Oh, okay. I thought she
Yeah.
was fine. I thought the British lady. I thought she was like really bad, or she
Or
at
her
least had
character's
some of the.
terrible.
Yeah, the character's terrible. She had some of the worst lines in the movie. Like everybody uses everybody, don't they?
Right,
It's like
yeah.
fucking terrible.
I liked you. We made it. What do you think it was? True love. And you think I used you. What about you using me? Everybody uses everybody, don't they?
Yeah, it's so hackneyed, and so basically, like for a little context, like after it's like 5 or 6 years after, 5 or 6 years after the first one, and Tony is now in Manhattan. So like basically the whole conceit of like the first one's already like fulfilled. Like he moved out. He's a dancer. Like what more like conflict is there? And so yeah, he has this really pretty girlfriend is also a dancer, but then he has his eyes on this British lady spots in the music. It just keeps going back and forth. Like it's so repetitive. Like the blonde girlfriend just keeps like forgiving him over and over. Like what you trying out for sainthood? He's a fucking idiot. Like he's like like fooling around, and then he gets upset because the British lady ghosts her. It's like, why? Whatever. It's because we made it. Like, you gotta like we're attached or whatever.
That fight scene, that was like one of the cringiest freaking things in the whole movie. That whole like argument they have after they hook up. Oh my god. Yeah, the movie was it was so corny. Like I can't even. We didn't even mention, it says at the beginning, this is a Sylvester Stallone
Right,
film.
he directed this movie. I guess because, Travolta really liked Rocky 3, and I guess, like, he felt confident that Stallone could do
this is the only movie Stallone has directed that he did not lead, also. Because he directed
I think
Rambo.
so.
Yeah, Rambo, the newer one, the 2008, I think.
Yeah, and he had this... Yeah, he did Rocky 2, 3, 4, and 6. He directed those.
Yeah, he did those, which are all starring him. This is the only film like he's directed that isn't, him leading. Mm-hmm. He's in it briefly, but it's
very
like
briefly.
Blink and you miss it. Yeah, it's like
he doesn't have any lines.
Yeah.
Although Frank Stallone's in the movie quite a bit.
Yeah,
his brother.
That's true. Yeah, Frank Stallone, who has like his own kind of career, B-movie career. But, like, this movie, like, it wasn't very well directed. I don't know if, like, maybe Stallone could make a good movie with someone else aside from him. It's just, like, this is, like, the one example of, like, him doing that. And it isn't great. And
No.
in fact, it's, like, really bad, actually. Yeah, I hated the movie. I thought it was basically unwatchable. It's one of those movies when it started, like, not just the Stallone credit, like, the first shot of the movie. It's like, wow, this is going to suck. It's one of those movies that it's going to be bad immediately.
The title
so
card.
Fucking bad.
I noticed like the way the title appears on the screen, it like
yeah.
smacks you in the face.
Yeah.
It's so aggressive.
That's what the whole movie did.
Like, whoa.
The whole movie was a smack in the face. Yeah, just like that opening little bit with all the dancing. The dancing's like horrible in this movie. It's so flamboyant and like, you know what I mean? Like it's like the end of the movie is like, wow, this is like super weird. And the first one is not like that at all.
No,
the dancing,
no.
the first one's great. I don't have the criticism at all with the first one. This one is like, holy shit, the dancing is so fucking... Like, you sent me snaps of you laughing at it. And yeah, I was laughing too. I was laughing at how bad, like, this, the dancing was and how corny it was.
Yeah, it's so, like, preposterous. Because the first one...
The story is preposterous.
The first one, the club is, it looks great. Like you love all the fun dance. I love the lighting. It's kind of like, like smoky in there. But this one, it's just like on a boring like Broadway stage. Like the musical at the end that like Travolta's character stars in is completely ridiculous. It's called Satan's Alley, like the fake movie in Tropic Thunder. If people remember the one with like Robert Downey Jr. and Tobey Maguire. I'm like, I wonder if like that they literally named it after the
I'll
play.
play the trailer. Oh, yeah, that's definitely got to be intentional, right?
It might be.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
It must have. Well, that play is hilarious. That's what I mean about like the whole flamboyant. Like he's like shirtless and like they're tying him with ropes.
Yeah,
he's like in hell. I'm like, this is what is this? And
it
then
seems like
the
a
end,
parody.
They just give it a standing ovation. Everyone like it's the greatest show they've ever seen.
And right, yeah, exactly. We don't buy it, and also it negates like the ending of the first one because what happens at the end of the first one. So like Tony does the contest with Stephanie and they win, but Tony still feels inadequate. He feels like the Latino couple that danced after him were better, and like they only won because they're
like
white.
Rigged.
Right?
It
Yeah.
was rigged by their friend.
Yeah, so it made it even then like it felt hollow to him, and then in this one like the play is a complete success. The musical, it's just like
they have
no
like a
conflict.
zoom in on his face, and it's like amazing, but it doesn't It lacks like the stakes were much lower in the first one, and it just made it better. It made it more relatable.
You think the stakes were lower?
In the first one, just in terms of like, it's not a big Broadway play. It's
Sure,
just
right.
It's a
I get what you're
local
saying.
dance competition, and like the reactions from everyone were genuine and like justified. Whereas in this, it's like this terrible Broadway play. It's like really gay for some reason, and then like,
Yeah, homoerotic.
it's just like everyone's like, "Wow, this is amazing," and like John Travolta's like, "Oh, I did it." It's like, what is this even the same universe?
Yeah, you're right. It's too big. Like, you can't really relate. I could see like maybe just like a regular person just want to do a dance contest, but most people don't star in Broadway musicals where like they're like just fawned over.
Yeah, and yeah, the expectation there is so great because you have to make if you're gonna sell like amazing Broadway musical, it has to be something like Cats or something like
Cats.
Is that what, or like
Another bad movie.
Even that was terrible. But I just mean like some great like Sweeney Todd, like an amazing Broadway play where like they would have to be doing that for me to buy it. But they're not. They're just doing this stupid, like, that's not even what you see on Broadway necessarily, like this giant dance act. That's not really
Maybe
what
40 years ago. Who knows?
Maybe like The Lion King, certain kinds of Broadway plays. But yeah, now I don't. It just didn't make any sense. Like the story didn't make any sense.
No.
It was horrendous. This movie. This is a fucking terrible movie.
Oh, it is terrible. And also, like, we mentioned
Yeah.
before, like, how, like, thin the romantic subplot is, especially compared to the first one, because it's, it's a bit more fraught. Like, Tony's kind of creepy. He, like, manhandles Stephanie, he,
Right.
strings along Annette. He's not very, courteous towards
Yeah.
them. It's kind of like, I read, Roger Ebert's essay, and it's kind of like tying into like the Madonna horror complex. Like he definitely like exhibits that. He's kind of like, a bit like chauvinistic. But this one, he's just
Sure.
a cad. So there's no depth to it at all. He just like wants to go
compared
back
to
and
his
forth.
friends in the first one, he was like a bit better. That's why the friends were important. He's like less of an asshole than them, but yeah, he's still an asshole. And yeah, Stephanie's line at the end, like, it's the first time I let a known rapist in my apartment. Yeah, he is a piece of shit. This one, yeah, it's just they forget all of that. It's like, oh, don't worry about any of that. This is a news story. It's just about Travolta. And like, it's not even the same character. Like, it doesn't even feel like the same character,
not
really.
barely. And yeah, and like another point too, like in the first one, you see him in a lot of different contexts. You see him at work and at home and with his friends. But this one, like, it's just like him rehearsing or him with the ladies. Yeah, it's so dull.
They try to do the whole thing at the end of Staying Alive, him
Mm-hmm.
walking down Times Square, and they're playing the music. And yeah, it's like a close-up of his back, and it doesn't work nearly as well.
No, and plus, like, the Simpsons parody that, like, the end of Staying Alive, because like it's like the same line Bart says, like, I know what I'm gonna do now, strut. Boom, boom.
Is that what you wanted to mention to me? That was a spoiler.
It's not. Yeah, it's not much of a spoiler.
I guess.
Staying Alive is a 10 out of 10 song for the record. I can't say that the movie has the same score.
The score for the movie, yeah, the music wasn't as good.
No, not nearly as
aside
memorable.
from the song "Staying Alive," which is a good song.
But that doesn't even really count because they already used it before.
Yeah, it's the same scene in the first one. That's probably the best scene in this one too.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it's at the very end. The very end of the movie was bizarre because it was like a freeze frame of Travolta in Times Square, and then he faded out. He like disappeared.
I do have a few more. So, like, I believe this is the earliest movie to have a 0% score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
like
Yeah.
nobody liked this shit. It wasn't like well, I thought it was okay. Like no, and actually
That's the
even
thing. How did it
Yeah.
do financially?
it did pretty well. So I'm looking
Uh-huh.
at the list of highest grossing domestic movies from 1983. It was number 8. So like do
Okay.
you want me to say like the whole 10 or just mention like a few like? So like it was Return of the
Well,
Jedi
yeah.
was the highest
Like,
grossing movie that year.
How
Much
much
better
like
sequel.
money? How much like money did it make?
Let me see.
Because number 8 back then, that's what like $10 million or something. Like number 8 now is like
maybe a little
800
more.
million. Yeah, it's,
It made like roughly, let's say like 127 million. Don't quote me on that. It's just an estimate.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good. That's definitely good. I get why they
Yeah.
made the movie financially. It's just a terrible movie. Yeah,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right. Like everyone I talked to who's like older, who's like who saw the movie when it came out, basically, like my dad, these like people I meet like at stores or whatever. They're just like, yeah, they remember the movie, they remember seeing it, they remember it coming out, they remember that it was terrible and that everyone hated it also. That was like a huge part of the story. Like everyone says it's terrible. I'm like, wow, this is like, it makes me want to watch it. Like you recommending it to me. And now I watch it. I'm like, yeah, that was absolutely fucking atrocious. Like it's just fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's pretty
like
bad.
I couldn't believe it.
And it outgrossed Scarface that year because, you know, Scarface wasn't really a big hit when it came out, but, you know, it became much more popular and obviously much more enduring than this.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, this is aged horribly, unlike the first one. The songs have aged terribly, the dancing, everything about it, the filmmaking, it's just so cheesy. It's just such a cornball cheese fest. This whole movie,
cringeworthy,
and
also
dialogue.
Yeah, terrible. And plus, because it's co-written by Stallone, who wrote Rocky, which is, you know, a great script. And yeah, this is just like so. The movie Stallone directed afterward, Rocky 4, also has a lot of montages, but it's at least a bit more entertaining.
Yeah, if you had an accent. Or what's that fucking line about the accent? Having an accent made you smart. That you'd be Einstein.
Yeah, it's just like so bad. Like I couldn't even remember any lines.
Yeah, it just doesn't even like some of them don't even make sense. Like there was a setup for that line. It's like an Allstate joke.
Oh yeah, I heard. He's like, "What are you, Allstate?" Yeah.
The setup made no sense. He just said that to set up a joke.
Right, exactly. Said. It's like he wouldn't
like,
actually say that.
Yeah. It makes a fucking horrible. Horrible. I mean, I would give this a 0.5 star, honestly.
I know maybe
that
like
seems low. But like everyone,
low.
like I don't know anyone who would defend it. You know, I was just like
no.
I could barely sit through it. I was like, this is terrible. I kept going on my phone. I mean, it was so corny. Whenever I looked up, it was like some corny fucking cheeseball scene, like them arguing about. Everybody uses everybody.
Yeah. She's just the mean woman or whatever.
It was really funny at points.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Unintentionally
just
so.
How corny. Yeah, the dancing and whatever. Just moments like that.
Mm-hmm. And you know, regarding the dance, I don't know if like people know like some of like Bob Fosse's movies like Cabaret or all that jazz. Like those also kind of have like, you know, big like extravagant musical sequences, but they have subtext to them. Like Cabaret is about like the Nazis, you know, taking power, and all that jazz is about, you know, it's kind of like semi-autobiographical about Fosse. Like, you know, like the director of the play is literally dying. He's working himself to death. So like, but in this one, there's no irony. There's no like, you know, kind of like off-putting, like, you know, meaning to what you're seeing. It's just a bunch of fucking dancing. Hollow. Exactly, right. So that's what makes it much more boring.
And there's not enough characters too. Like I feel like the first one had more characters and a lot more going on. Like his brother there in the first one wants to be a priest, or he's a priest. Like there's just like a lot more depth to that movie than this one. There's just like very few characters, and they're all like, it's like there's a love triangle with the two girls, and then there's like the show manager, his mom, like a couple other people. Like it's like
not really.
It's like nothing happening. Yeah,
a couple other people that don't have names.
Yeah, it's fucking shit. Yeah, the script is like rushed. And the dialogue is hilarious. I mean, really.
Yeah, it's just total crap. One more thing I'll say is like this kind of like started.
I don't wanna rush you. You know, I just feel like we mentioned like the good points, like
sure,
and like the dancing. And...
good points. But like this kind of started like Travolta's like decline a bit, like career wise, because like in between Saturday, like the first one and this one, he did Grease, which obviously was another big hit, and Blowout, which wasn't commercially successful, but it's a great movie. People should check it out. The thriller. It's in the Criterion collection.
Yeah, I saw the Criterion of that. Blowout's a great movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like this is like '83. He really didn't come back until Pulp Fiction, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. It's a Hall of Famer movie, and that was great because it was a reminder. It's not just like a bunch of cheesy stuff. It's a reminder of Travolta's charisma playing Vincent, like fucking frantic when a woman's about to die from a heroin overdose.
Yeah, right. It's back to Travolta being classic line deliveries and that sort of thing. This one he has none of those.
No, like it doesn't.
He is bad in this movie. He's
straight
up bad.
It doesn't play to his strengths.
Whose limo is this? Anybody know whose limo this is?
Oh, let me before we go, I want to show off the record I got. So yeah, so
Bee
that's Saturday Night
Gees.
Fever right there. Yeah, and then this is Staying Alive.
Yeah, buy one, not the other. Goes for the movies
get
too.
Get the Saturday Night Fever Blu-ray or get the Saturday Night Fever vinyl because the other one you shouldn't get. The Saturday Night Fever vinyl was like $23 and the Staying Alive one was $9. So that should tell you.
Should have been 9 cents.
It should have been, yeah. They're like in the same condition too. So.
Travolta kind of had like another downward spiral, at least in terms of movies, and obviously, his wife Kelly Preston passed away, so he's been on sabbatical. Unfortunately, but I'm hoping he'll have at least one more good movie at some point because it's been a while.
Yeah, that's what I had hoped for as well because I like him. I don't think anyone dislikes I think people like working with him. He is a Scientologist, so there's that. aside from him being a Scientologist, I mean, people still seem to.
He seems like a pleasant enough character.
And he's got charisma for sure as an actor. Like even in Gotti, it's like
and Get Shorty,
really
yeah.
I shouldn't use
really
Gotti as a good example of anything. Well, at least in Gotti, no, Gotti's terrible. But he's charisma. He's charismatic.
Face Off. He's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So as far as like what I'd rate Staying Alive, I guess like a half star. As opposed to the other one I gave 4 stars.
Yeah, I'd probably give this like a 2 out of 10. Just because I like to save the half stars for something that like, this is terrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like it's good, but like I like to reserve those for movies that like just like really get under my skin. Like,
This kind of did, but
sure, I could see that, and the camera went away.
It's horrible. Yeah, you can't look away. It's like a car accident.
Yeah.
I have some. All right. Good. So good discussion.
Yeah, and that's one quick. I recently just watched Risky Business, which came out the same. It was the 10th highest grossing movie. Watch that instead. That's a good one with Tom Cruise. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's probably better.
It's way better. Not probably. It is better.
It's for sure. Okay, so I have some questions from the question thread. You leave your questions on the Ralph the Movie Maker subreddit, the Ralph the Movie Maker podcast subreddit. We'll answer them there. So this is from the legendary Squiznit. They have 2 questions. Let's see. Maybe just answer one of them. How many times do you feel like you have to watch a movie before you feel like it is trustworthy of being a high on your favorite list for that year? Are there some movies where you know that you love them immediately? Or do you feel you always need to check in with yourself later? So like basically like, do you like love a movie right away? Like how do you feel? Like when you watch a great movie right away, do you give it like a 10 out of 10 like immediately, or do you like take some time to think about it? Because I think like that's kind of what I do. Like if I saw like Mad Max Fury Road, I sit with it for a little bit. I'm not like, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen. I like sit with it a little bit and think what to rate it. Because sometimes I don't rate things right away. Sometimes I wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Banshees, like I was thinking of giving that like a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I waited. I'm like, let me wait. And same with Tar. I would rate that highly, like a 9 out of 10. But yeah, I want to see those again. I don't just like want to go with my first gut impression. And also, they probably are like 10s. It's not.
Yeah, or thereabouts. And,
yeah, they're around there. Yeah, it's at least a 9 or a 10. Yeah, for those. Yeah, so how do you feel about that?
It's a good question. I guess it depends. I'll give you like, example, like, something like The Dark Knight. I'd have to think too hard about, like, you knew that was a classic, like walking out of the theater, like certain ones like that. Like if it's like that good, like, or like, Inglourious Bastards, like, wow, like that was awesome. Other ones, like sometimes, like I don't always rate things right away. Sometimes, even like a year later, sometimes you might look at like rankings like, oh, I'd put this one a little higher or lower this one. Sometimes, letting movies linger with you is a good thing. But,
yeah, I feel like it's a good thing. Like, I feel like rating a movie 5 stars right away after seeing it is usually like a bad thing, and it's usually impulsive. I usually don't like doing it.
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing necessarily. I mean, it might be a little hasty.
Yeah, it's a little hasty. To me, that's like kind of like what reactionary Snyder Cut fans do.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that was amazing. It's like, did you even like take time to process it? Like, it's a lot of movie you just watched there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? Take some time to like think about it. Mad Max Fury Road, that's probably the closest one where I saw the movie. I was like, damn, that was great. You know, I don't think I rated it 5 stars right away, but I would like now. Sometimes I
Yeah, I
change
would too.
ratings. Like I rate them higher. Ratings are not that important to me. So
Yeah, they can be kind of
I just kinda
arbitrary.
just go with, yeah, they can. So I kind of just go with the flow on them. I'm not too, because some people are very try to be consistent with their ratings, and it doesn't always work out. There's usually a lot of inconsistency in there. Like I look at critics I like, I'm like, what? Like why'd you rate it? Why'd you rate Cry Macho like so highly?
Yeah, sometimes
you
it
rate
can be
Cry Macho 5
relative.
stars. I mean, it's
I
basically
don't
like
think we
almost.
would.
Yeah, that's basically almost what they gave it.
Yeah, it seems a little extreme. Sometimes once can be enough, like at least in terms of like whether it's a great, a good movie or not. I think you can usually tell. I mean, sometimes you're like, maybe I didn't like it as much, but usually like something like Everything Everywhere All at Once, like that's a good movie no matter
Right.
what. I mean, you
Right,
really
that was
enjoyed
great.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, like
that's
ratings
great.
I'm talking about.
sure.
Exact rating. But yeah, it's good to think about a movie after you see it. Like, don't just go with your first impression right away. Like, take a moment to process the emotional journey, you know?
Yeah, and
This
sometimes
person-
expectations can tie in, like whether it's like how people reviewed it, if it's like really highly rated already, that can like manipulate. Like, do I actually really like it, or am I just trying to like agree with everybody else,
Yeah.
kind of thing?
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that either. hmm Yeah, so good question. Here's one more from him. What are your growing thoughts on the folk film YouTube feature film making community? A lot of really interesting movies came out in 2022 on YouTube. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's just like YouTube movies or internet movies. There's that one, The Backrooms, that's getting like an A24 adaptation, or like the guy who made The Backrooms short, which is like a YouTube short. He's like a 17-year-old. He's like making a movie with A24 now. So I thought that was interesting, and like that's an interesting question to ask because it's kind of in now. I've seen some other ones too, some YouTube shorts that I like. I mean, obviously I've made YouTube films.
Yeah.
Not just Ralph and the Multiverse recently, but King Candy and The High, and I've released those on YouTube. They're not YouTube movies. I released those in festivals first, and then put them on YouTube. Not Ralph and the Multiverse, but point is, what is my point? I guess what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, I like YouTube movies mostly. I think it's great because distributors often try to limit your creativity. That's what I've encountered making films. Obviously, when I made Lover, that's like a story I've told to you where they tried to change the title of the movie, to like Into a Dark Mind or something.
Yeah.
Which is like silly.
Not as good.
I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to change the movie for you. So something good about YouTube is obviously you put the movie on yourself, or you just upload it. You can have people look at it and like tell you it's good, but you have like a lot of creative freedom, and it's not being limited by a distributor or something. So you get a lot of more creative kind of stories told on YouTube, and that's why I like it. A lot more variety. Whereas in companies, you usually don't get that. You usually get a lot of the same kind of output from certain companies. Not all of them, but like Disney and so on. You expect a certain kind of thing. Whereas YouTube, you get all sorts of movies. So yeah, what kind of YouTube movies have you seen?
Not many.
You've been in a couple.
I have
in,
been.
like, yeah, you were like in the bread movie we made.
Right. Yeah, that was for.
You weren't in Sauce,
school.
but you were
No, I
were
wasn't.
around. You were. That's when I was in Boston, so you were around, and I think you were doing something else.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I haven't seen many YouTube movies, I'll be honest, but yeah, I'm always encouraging of anybody like with the nice thing, it's
Yeah.
like so accessible now, like anybody with a phone can make a movie and tell their stories. That's the best way to present yourself, really, even like more so than like writing a script, like literally having like a YouTube video that you can send to people, like this is like expressive of what I want to do as a filmmaker.
A completed project, yeah. And if it's something you wrote, yeah, that's especially really cool. I've been reading like how screenwriting, like festivals aren't really that helpful, and I don't know much about those. You know, when I write a script, I just make the movie, so I haven't had to like deal with those much. But apparently, people say like it's just not worth it. Like it's not worth like, you know, like you just pay all these fees, you know, because you obviously have to pay to be in a festival, which is worth it if you're a filmmaker up and coming. You're trying to get exposure, and it's a good thing because you go to a festival, you pay, but you get attention, you get exposure, which is good. But they say it's just not worth it if you're a writer, you know, if you're doing that, because I don't know why. It's just like, it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, like some of my friends have won prizes, whatever, second or third place or whatever. Yeah, so that's always nice. But yeah, I guess it's just up to like,
it's
you know,
just as far as
each
like where it
person.
could take you in your career trajectory. Like winning a film festival for a film you made, that's a bigger deal. That's a big deal. Whereas making a script, that's like, maybe it could help you get it made for sure. Maybe that's why people do it. But like, I just feel like you really have to put yourself out there if you want to make movies, and like a screenplay is not enough. Like if you can make the screenplay, that's really something. And it's like, even if you can't make it great, I think that's what like filmmakers or writers should really do. They should try to actually make it. You know,
Yeah,
and that's
I
like
agree.
why YouTube is great, because you can just make the movie and put it on YouTube. Like get some actors, or you know, animate it, make it an animation or something. Make it a
It's
stop
more
motion
work,
movie.
but sure.
Yeah, make it a stop motion movie. I mean, it depends on your talent, right? Some people can't work with actors, but they're great at animating stuff. So it just depends on your talent, your expression. But like, it's just, I feel like that's a much better route to take. Yeah, like you said, you actually have something to show people. Like, you could apply for any job and show people your freaking movies that you made. You could put them on LinkedIn. And like, just like, people like watching stuff like that. Whereas you can't really do that with like a screenplay. And you know, if you're a writer, you should be doing that. But just, you really have to put yourself out there, I mean, when you make a movie, to really stand out. And that's ultimately what people want. They want to like stand out so they can get work, so they can get their shit made. And to do that, you have to, you know, even if you're a writer, maybe you have to direct something or act in something and do stuff that you don't. I mean, Tarantino studied to be an actor. He didn't study to be a writer or I studied. He didn't really go to school, but he went to school for a little bit. He didn't like school. But what he was trying to learn to do was act, and he ended up becoming a director and writer because people told him he's a terrible actor, and he is. So, yeah. I guess it's like a loaded question. I said like a lot for that answer, but yeah, that's just what I mean. Like,
Yeah, put yourself out there. Yeah,
and
Jinx.
YouTube's a great place to do that. It's where I found a lot of success in just doing stuff on YouTube. And I'm very lucky too.
Yeah.
It's not just all like, oh, I'm the greatest things in sliced bread, but
Yeah, it's a lot of it's
it's
ambition
very
too.
yeah, it's very much luck. Like I latched on to IHE and YMS there, like a parasite, and yeah, like some of their audience trickled onto me. But yeah, like
always
some
nice.
people don't even get that chance. You know, they don't get that. They just get nothing, like their whole fucking career. Which
Hopefully
sucks, but
everybody
yeah.
get this shot.
Yeah, I'm afraid for artists like that who like never get their shot. That's why I say like, get out there, you know, be out there, take on other roles. You said you can do other things, like take on different roles on the set. Don't just do one thing. At least now, at least in this stage in your career when you're like starting out. Okay, so this is from Dunkachino with a 0 at the end.
Yep.
What is your What is your favorite decade? What is your favorite decade of films, and what is your favorite films from said decade? So, I really like the 70s.
I do
I think
too.
there's a lot of great stuff there. I'd say like that's probably the best era for film. I mean, that's a hard decade to pick. 60s is a good one. You know, 50s obviously, 90s.
Yeah, I mean,
like, you know, those are all
it's like
great.
every decade.
Every decade has great stuff. Especially I'd say, you know, 60s, 70s, and 90s. Those are like some of my favorite. And 80s too, but
Yeah.
70s has like Apocalypse Now, Godfather, Star Wars.
Jaws.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of like
Jaws.
the new Hollywood movies, like, like if in case people don't know, it's like that era, like, where, Spielberg and Scorsese,
Lucas,
Coppola,
yeah.
Brian De Palma, like all those guys, like kind of like all these directors were left to their own devices and came up with a lot of like, great movies, like uncompromising story, like Sidney Lumet, Dog Day Afternoon, like stuff like that. I'm sure, like, that's when, like, a lot of those guys, like, really, like, changed the landscape, came to be.
Yeah, those are some great movies at that time. Yeah, completely creatively unrestricted. I don't know why things aren't like that now. You get some directors like that now, like the Chris Nolans and so on.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's more rare, and there's more, I guess there's more variety, which is good. But I just love that era for movies. That was such a great, like, decade for movies. All those movies you mentioned, those are 10 out of 10. Dog Day Afternoon. We could talk about that one day. But
Yeah, one of my
those are
favorites.
excellent. Yeah, those are great. Yeah. So yeah,
good stuff.
that's all. Yeah, I think we're all good. Staying alive.
Staying alive. Don't watch
We're
it. Watch
staying alive.
Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.